Hey guys, this launched last year and it's still the best vanilla fragrance on the market currently. And since I haven't done a full review of Vanilla Mudslide by BLDNRGRPHY, I'm going to do that for you today. Tell you all about Vanilla Mudslide and why you need to get a bottle. Because for a while it was sold out everywhere. Now it's back in stock and you can get a bottle. It's the best vanilla. In fact, I just featured it at #1 over the weekend in my vanilla fragrances video. So if you haven't gotten your nose on Vanilla Mudslide, we actually featured it in a Scent Club kit. In fact, there's probably like 4 left, maybe 5. So if you haven't gotten that kit, please do. We also have a new kit that just dropped a couple of weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, kit number 17. But yes, Vanilla Mudslide is the best vanilla on the market now. I'm obsessed with it. I actually traveled with it during my European trip from September through like almost the middle of October. And then I also took it to China with me and I couldn't get enough of it. What I love about it is it's an extrait de parfum, super, super strong, long lasting, great projection, even smelling super sexy. And it's that kind of a vanilla fragrance that's very, very addicting. So this actually launched a year ago in September at Petit Fragranza. So the brand had just put out the fragrances and I smelled the entire collection. Didn't know which one I smelled first, I can't remember. But instantly, Vanilla Mudslide stood out. One of the best vanilla fragrances, hands down, created by Anne-Sophie of Flair. Flair is a studio perfume house in Paris, and it's run by women, and they're women perfumers. And I've been a fan of the fragrances that these women perfumers create. And I kind of like their DNA. And the entire collection from BLDNRGRPHY are created by different perfumers at Flair. But for me, when I smelled this for the first time in September 2024, Vanilla Mudslide stood out. In fact, I posted about it on Instagram, said best vanilla I've smelled. And to this day, almost a year and a half later, well, it hasn't been a year and a half. It's been like a year and 2 months later. I'm still obsessed with the way this vanilla fragrance smells. So here we've got for the top notes, bitter almonds, butter note, coconut milk. For the heart, we've got cocoa, coffee, davana, sweet almond, vanilla. Finally, in the base notes, we've got ISOE Super, Ambroxan, vodka, and white musks. So the entire brand is inspired by cocktails, you know, the ones that you have at a bar when the cocktail is being shaken, because the presentation for the fragrances are like this. As you can see, it's wooden box. Inside it, there is a cocktail shaker. And the fragrance actually comes inside it. No, you don't have to shake it because it's already shaken and stirred, ready for you to wear. It does come in a cellophane though, but it's a great presentation. Now, the other thing is it does come in 2 sizes. This is a 100 ml bottle that I'm showing you here, which is $245. It's hard to find niche fragrances that are so super strong, so super sexy, and long-lasting like this for this price range or price point. So it's a really, really great price point. Highly recommend you try this for that price point alone, and also being one of the best vanilla fragrances. But if you don't want the cocktail shaker, you can get a 50 ml. Similar bottle, just a shorter bottle with the same cap without the cocktail shaker for $175. But again, this is... so I should mention, I'm not familiar with a vanilla. I should say, I'm not familiar with a mudslide, not a vanilla mudslide. I've never had a mudslide in my life, so I don't know what that would taste like. But whatever inspiration that they've taken from that cocktail and turned it into a perfume has been such a magical experience. I haven't been addicted to a vanilla fragrance this much. I love vanilla, one of my favorite notes. You guys know that about me. I'm obsessed with it. It's my #2 favorite note. But here, what they've done is quite magical. So, as I was saying just a little while ago that I really like the DNA of this perfume house Flair, lady perfumers that have made fragrances that I've been a fan of for several years now. So they've added the DNA in this, so I kind of can pick it up. I can kind of smell some stuff that they've done before. But what they've done here is super concentrated and intensified. So It's acting like a gourmand, but not your traditional fluffy, cakey, caramelly gourmand. It's quite dark. There's a darkness about it. To me also, I almost think that there's tobacco here, maybe lightly hinting at something like tobacco vanille. Not quite, a little bit, but there's no mention of tobacco, so whatever they've done with the notes, it's acting like that. But I do find slight smokiness in this, which is what I've written down as my notes, because it gives me a little bit of a smoky vibe. But it's quite sticky in a non-super gourmand way, but also quite dark. There's almonds here, there's cacao or chocolatey touches, and coffee as well. Maybe it's the combination of all these notes together that kind of gives me a bit of a smokiness to trick my mind or my nose to think that it's tobacco. You know, tobacco and vanilla go hand in hand. They're a great combo, you know, especially for the example of tobacco vanille, probably one of the more popular fragrances from Tom Ford. Whereas this doesn't smell like Tom Ford's tobacco vanille, it kind of reminds me of it because it's its own unique fragrance. But it's very, very addicting, and one that if you like my taste, you must get your nose on this, because again, it's the best vanilla fragrance on the market from what I've smelled on the market currently. So let's smell it and give you a little bit more about this. And then what I'm going to do also is tell you about the other fragrances in the collection from BLDNRGRPHY. So instantly, you've got a bitter almond smell. It's quite bitter. And if you're familiar with the smell of bitter almonds, even a little bit like tonka beans, you'll, pick that up right away. So I think that's kind of dominating up top, but it is smoothing out. It's a bit more drier start, but I think it's smoothing out. The butter note makes it creamy, that velvety smooth kind of creamy texture, along with coconut milk. But for me, what's dominating is that bitterness of the almondy, nutty note up top. I think now it's becoming a bit syrupy. I think the cocoa, coffee combined together gives you that kind of a syrupy characteristic. So it's kind of blending perfectly. And I think I'm starting to pick up the vanilla as well, because the vanilla is pretty prominent. It's what's running the show. So it gets vanillic, it gets, coffee, chocolate. But see, the thing is, the coffee and cocoa, I should say, are not super strong. The bitter almonds do dominate a bit more than the coffee and the cocoa, but it's back there. You'll notice it. Not smell it as much, but the texture changes from the dryness to a bit more smooth. Perhaps there's a little bit of something fruity, maybe slightly boozy, because we do have Davana in the notes as well. Really awesome note that I really love. That's also in my fragrance collaboration called 54. In fact, there is a video on the channel, guys. If you want to find out more about Davana, there's a whole video on Davana. This was not featured in it because I wasn't aware that this featured Davana. But this fragrance is not about the Davana, by the way. And for me, what's happening in the dry down, in the base notes, is where the fragrance gets its strength and potency. Now, they do mention vodka, and I believe the Mudslide is a vodka cocktail. So I'm not the biggest fan of vodka, and I'm also, like I said, I've never had a Mudslide before. So I'm kind of going in thinking, is this smelling like the Mudslide cocktail? Because really, when you taste vodka, there's no real smell to it. In fact, there's hardly any taste. It just tastes like alcohol pretty much. Maybe minor nuances there. So you can't really pick up a smell. Maybe it does have a slight booziness. But for me, what's really perfect in the dry down is the intensity of the ISOE Super and the Ambroxan. And mixed with the vanilla and the almonds, because there's also sweet almonds here in addition to the bitter almonds, you've got this nice combination of a delicious amber vanilla fragrance. So really super intoxicating. Again, one of the best fragrances on the market. I think if you love fragrances like tobacco vanille and you enjoy Ambroxan and musky notes, because this is quite musky as well. There's a lot of white musks here. There's also the Ambroxan and ISOE Super, which also amplify the muskiness. So you got to enjoy the musky touches because that's what I like about it. It's super sexy that way. And I find tobacco vanille to be super sexy as well. And once again, I'll reiterate, it gives me the idea and the vibe of tobacco vanille, but this does not smell like tobacco vanille. Maybe it reminds me more of it because I do get the tobacco-ish touches with vanilla mudslide, but in the end, they both smell completely different, and I love both of them. But right now, for me, the best vanilla fragrance on the market is vanilla mudslide. And a couple of months ago, there was no stock of vanilla mudslide left because we dropped our kit with vanilla mudslide early on before the big hype started happening. Like we featured that was kit number 14 and we are on kit number 17. So it was early on in the year because as soon as I smelled this fragrance, I said, we've got to feature this in our kit because I absolutely love it. It's an amazing smelling fragrance, an awesome creation by Anne-Sophie Bahagel. So we have featured it. And again, as I said, there's probably like 4 to 5 kits remaining. So get them before we completely run out. Or we do have the fragrances tagged in the YouTube video as well. So I have started tagging ZGO Perfumery within YouTube because they are now a retailer on the YouTube shopping platform. So you can directly go there and buy the bottle of BLNDRGRPHY's Vanilla Mudslide. Again, I think once you get it, I mean, if you like my taste, you're going to enjoy it. I think it's perfect for autumn and winter as well. It smells great. And the compliments do come in as well. People really love this fragrance on me. And I'm not easy on the trigger. I spray quite a bit. So people do notice my smell and I do get compliments. Because sometimes I hear people saying, how come I never get compliments? Well, do you control your sprays or do you overspray? Because in the end, it depends on the fragrances as well. This fragrance is quite potent. It's intense. It's an extrait de parfum. It's quite long lasting. It has great projection and all that stuff that you need for people to notice your smell. So then people will notice you. But if you're like doing 1 or 2 sprays of a mass designer fragrance, those things do not last. So these are the kind of fragrances that are going to get people noticing you and asking what you're wearing. So again, I'll reiterate, Vanilla Mudslide is one of the best vanilla fragrances on the market now. Get yourself a bottle before they run out again, because they were out for like good 3 to 4 months of this fragrance. As we were rolling out the kits and people were discovering, I received so many messages, I can't find a bottle. So people were buying kits over again because they were obsessed with Vanilla Mudslide. Because, like I said, it is one of the best vanilla fragrances on the market today. So let me tell you a little bit more about the brand and the other fragrances. So what I'm going to do is give you the ranking right now. So since I've already told you Vanilla Mudslide is my favorite vanilla, and also it happens to be my favorite fragrance from the brand, BLNDRGRPHY, I'm going to tell you about my next favorite fragrance, and it happens to be Jasmine Martini. So Jasmine is a jasmine-focused fragrance, but it is got a little funk to it. It's a bit indolic, so be warned. I don't think this is... I know for a fact that Vanilla Mudslide is the best seller of the brand, but this particular fragrance might be a bit polarizing because it does have a little bit of funk, but I like that about it. And it's a bit briny as well because it has the olives note. It has olives, wine leaves, jasmine, gin, pink berries, lemons, juniper, grapefruit, ISOE super leather, Ambroxan. It's a really great fragrance, but it's jasmine. It's a bit muddled. I think I'm getting that from the olives that are in here, and I get a bit of a briny effect, which really works wonderfully with the jasmine note. The jasmine is really awesome. And once again, gin, vodka, it's interesting. I love boozy fragrances, but my top 2 fragrances from a brand about cocktails is 2 spirits, featuring 2 spirits that hardly have any smell. Although I feel like the gin has more of a smell, the juniper has a very fragrant smell in comparison to the vodka. But still, I think I personally don't find them to be boozy. For me, rum, cognac, whiskey are a bit more boozy smelling than the vodka and the gin. But gin for me is quite fragrant. I usually have a lot of vodka tonic. I'm sorry, not vodka tonics, gin tonics. And so I really love the way the juniper in the gin smells. And you can kind of pick that up in here as well, because in addition to the gin, they also have juniper. But for me, what's really standing out is the jasmine with its, slight funk. And the other thing is here with the jasmine martini, it's like the brininess is pretty prominent, and I think I'm getting that from the olives, and maybe the wine lees is creating that briny effect as well, which I quite like. So that is jasmine martini. So then we've got patchouli mojito is my third favorite from the line, and I'm giving it to you in my current favorites ranking. And I feel like patchouli mojito is a slight minty patchouli fragrance. It's fresh, it's citrusy, it's camphor because it's also got eucalyptus, and it's got ISOE Super and Ambroxan again. For me, this is more of a fresh fragrance. It's wearing fresh, even though it might have some deeper notes like the patchouli. It wears fresh because it's the way it's created. Below all those notes like the mint, eucalyptus, and the patchouli, there are musky notes once again. I think the brand really enjoys or likes using the musky notes that I like, whether it's Ambroxan, ISOE Super, Cashmeran, or even like white musks or musks. I think that's why I click with the DNA of the Flair Perfumers fragrances. And I can smell the DNA not only in Vanilla Mudslide, I could smell it in Jasmine Martini, and I can also smell it in Patchouli Mojito. So it's quite there. But for me, both of these two fragrances are a bit more lighter. They're not necessarily as deep and intense, even though they're all extrait de parfum. But the way the notes are, they're not like super beast mode like Vanilla Mudslide is. But both of them are great. But for me, number 1, Vanilla Mudslide. Number 2, Jasmine Martini. Number 3, Patchouli Mojito. Okay, number 4, we've got Amber Negroni. So Amber Negroni has latte chocolate, mandora, tangerine, orange, gin, caramel, ISOE Super, Ambroxan, heliotrope, vermouth, piri piri, and vanilla. So I'm a big fan of Negroni, but this is more of like a Negroni inspired experience. And I like the way it smells. It's an amber, but for me, it's more like a fresh amber once again, but not necessarily. Wait, I should take that back. It's not a fresh amber. It's a kind of a light wearing amber, I believe. It has gourmand touches. It's quite chocolatey. It's maybe a bit creamy, milky as well. And even though I like the smell, I feel a little confused by it because I don't get much of a Negroni experience from it. But how do you capture the smell of Negroni, Campari, and vermouth? So I think they've done a good job with this. Still somehow ended up more in the bottom because I kind of like the other ones just a little more. But I would say this is kind of tied with the Patchouli Mojito. It's warm, it's ambery, it's spicy, it's woody, of course chocolatey. It's gourmand. Yeah, it's gourmand, I would say. So that is Amber Negroni at number 4. And sadly, we have Santal Painkiller at number 5. Now, this is created by Margot Lepage-Gorin. So, big fan of her fragrances. In fact, I recently had her on the channel, and I shot a video with Sarah Baker Perfumes, as she just created Sarah Baker's Velvet Vendetta. But this fragrance, for some reason, just doesn't work with me. Whereas I like the other ones. I would enjoy wearing it. But I think, for me, personally, the pineapple clashes with the sandalwood. So it's just not working. So it's a bit sour because pineapple to me comes off sour. And even though it's got coconut and rum and plums, this one unfortunately falls flat for me. So even though the brand has a pretty killer lineup of fragrances, unfortunately Santal Painkiller just doesn't do it for me. And as I said, I'm a big fan of Margot Lepage-Gorin's fragrances, from the Filthy Musk, which is also in a Scent Club kit. I enjoy her Oud Candy. So many fragrances that she's done that I really, really love. But that one, unfortunately, just doesn't do it for me. But that's the ranking. And again, number 1, hands down, the best vanilla on the market now, Vanilla Mudslide. If you haven't bought it yet, get yourself a bottle. It is a great price. It is prices like I'm familiar with from like almost 10 years ago. 100 ml for $2.45 is not even heard of much these days for a niche fragrance, because these days you're like approaching $300, if not $350 for 100 ml. So it's a great price. If I were you, I would skip the 50 ml, go right to a 100 ml because it's $245 versus $175 and you get twice the juice. But anyway, those are my thoughts on BLNDRGRPHY's Vanilla Mudslide. Let me know your thoughts. Have you discovered it yet? Do add a comment below. And again, the fragrances are tagged and you can go directly to ZGO to buy yourself a bottle. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.